Hey guys, this is Rene. Welcome back for another video on this channel. Today I'm back with another programming tutorial. I want to write a mean reversion expert advisor with you for the MetaTrader 5. This expert advisor will use multiple indicators like multiple moving averages, the RSI, the ATR, and the idea is that if the price moves away a specific distance from the average price, then we are waiting for setbacks. It's a perfect strategy for a lot of different currency pairs like Euro-US dollar, GBP-US dollar pairs that are not the most volatile pairs that are ranging often, because with these kind of strategies in these kind of pairs, you can definitely make a lot of money. And the good thing is you can use this strategy in as many pairs as you want. So just code it once and then you will have it forever. Also, before we start with the coding part, if you like this kind of coding for the MetaTrader, if you're a big fan of automated trading and you thought about writing your own programs already, make sure to check out the links in the video description. You will find a complete programming course which teaches everything you need to know. Even if you're an absolute beginner, it will bring you up to this advanced coding level so you can write your own programs. But let's talk no more. Let's start to code this expert advisor now. So let me now explain quickly what we are going to do in this programming video. So here you can see I prepared a chart of the Euro-US dollar already. Euro-US dollar is one of these markets that we might want to trade with a strategy like this, because it usually, or in the past years, had longer sideways periods, and that's perfect for mean reversion strategy like this. Here you can see in the Euro-US dollar chart, I'm using the M15 chart now, we do have this very long moving average with 360 periods. This can be changed later on, of course, but this is the default setting that we choose here. And we want to use this moving average for the entry and also for the exit. So what we want to do is we only want to trade if the price is at least X%, let's say 0.5, 0.6, or even 1% away from the moving average, which means that we do have this mean, or this the price was running away from the mean, and we expect it to go back to the moving average, which is the average price as the name says. So let's have a look at this. For example, here we would assume that since the price is far away from the moving average, that we do see a reversal soon. So this would be our first entry criteria. Then we do also have the RSI here, and for buy trades and sell trades, we want to have a look at the direction of the RSI. So for example, if the RSI was going up, we want to look for buy trades. If it was going down, we want to look for sell trades. Then also we do have the ATR. So here we combine two ATR indicators actually, one 10 period, one 20 period ATR indicator. These values can be changed, of course, but what we want to do is, or what we want to see is, we want to see that the fast ATR, the 10 period ATR here, is below the 20 period ATR. In the first test that I did, this improved the performance a lot. Also, we do have a moving average on the daily chart. Here we will go down with the periods. Like my default settings that I used are 20 periods, and here we also want to check, or we want to use this 20 period moving average as a trend filter. So we only want to check for buy trades if the price is currently above the moving average, and we only want to check for sell trades if the price is below the moving average. So this is what we are going to do in this video. Make sure to copy all the single steps that I do here from the screen as I do it, because this will make you understand how this program works, how it is built, and this helps you to understand more about MQL5, the programming language, and programming for the MetaTrader 5 in general. Once you have the finished product, you can then play around with the settings and test this strategy in the different symbols like Euro-US dollar, GBP-US dollar, Australian dollar, Canada dollar, like whatever you want. And the idea of this is, of course, to create a portfolio of different currencies, different symbols using this strategy, because as we know, it will not always win every single time, but over a long period of time, if you combine multiple symbols with a strategy that should be profitable in the long run, then you have a good chance to gain some profits. So guys, let's start to code this strategy now. Even though this might seem complex at first, it's actually very easy, because we're just using a bunch of indicators that we then have to combine. So what we want to do is, first step of course is we want to use the MetaQuartz language editor, or open it, click on Tools, MetaQuartz language editor to do so. This will open the MetaQuartz language editor that we can use to create new expert advisors. In the upper left corner we will find the navigator with all of the expert advisors, but here we want to create a new one in the upper left corner. Just click on New. Choose expert advisor template. Then here we have to provide a name. We can say mean, reversion, and then we'll just add YouTube because it's a tutorial. You can choose any name you like, then click on next, and finish, and that's it. This is a brand new expert advisor. What we want to do here is, or what I usually like to do is, I delete the properties and these comments, because they do not really have an impact on the actual program, and this makes the code look a little bit cleaner, and we can see everything with one view here. So what we have left is we have three functions: the onInit, the onDinit, and the onTick function. So now we only have three functions left: the onInit, the onDinit, and the onTick function. We will use at least two of these, the onInit and the onTick, because in the onInit function we usually want to create handles for indicators that we can then use in the onTick to receive the actual values of these indicators. Talking about indicators, let's see what kind of indicators we need. We need one moving average on the chart time frame, or the signal time frame. Then, as I said, we need another moving average on a higher time frame as a filter. So we will need at least two moving averages. So what we can do is we can say we want to create two handles for this already. In a second I will explain what these handles are, but first of all let's have a look here. We also need the RSI and two ATRs. So here, same process, handle ATR 1 and handle ATR 2 and handle RSI. So what did I do here? I created 5 variables at this point, which are integer variables. Integer variables can be any, or they can hold any value pretty much that is a number like this. It cannot have a decimal point. In this case, these variables or integer variables are not used to hold just some random number, but we will use them to store the handles for our indicators in these variables. What does it mean? In the MetaTrader 5 programming, if we want to work with an indicator, the computer or the MetaTrader or the program, whatever, needs to know how this indicator looks like, because as you know probably, if you change, for example, the period for your moving average, it will look completely different. So this is why also in the programming process we need to say what specific indicator we are talking about. So as we had the example with the moving average already, let's define this exact moving average in the expert advisor that we are just creating. We want to have 360 periods, simple moving average, applied to the close price and no shift. That's very easy, because here we can just put this handle value in our variable pretty much, or store the value of this handle in our variable. And how can we do so? We can use a built-in function for this. This function is called IMA, and if you move your mouse cursor inside of this IMA word, so to say, and click F1 on your keyboard, it will open the MQL5 reference with a detailed explanation of this function. And here we can see the function returns the handle of the moving average indicator. It only has one buffer. So here we can see this function. First of all, it returns a integer value. This is what we can also see here. And then also we see it has a bunch of parameters. These parameters are used to specify this exact expert advisor. And if you listen carefully before, like 1 minute ago, I said we have the period, the period, the shift value, the method, and the applied price. These are all of the values that we find here if we want to define our moving average. Also here for the function, we do find that the symbol and the period. This is needed because in the programming, we could theoretically also calculate the moving average of a different chart time frame or a different chart symbol. This is not necessary if you just apply the moving average to a chart, because here it's automatically calculated for the current chart symbol and chart time frame. So if we provide all of these values here, we could do something like this, like euro US dollar, period M15 or just 15, and then we can say the MA period, which is here 360. Then we have the shift value 0. The mode could be mode simple moving average, and the price can be price closed. So what's going on here? We provided all of the necessary information, and you can see if I compile the program, which means I'm taking the source code or the text format here and turn it into a executable, we do not get any errors or warnings here, because this is like totally fine. We can see the periods or like the candles that we calculate on the shift value, the mode, and the price. These values can look a little bit confusing, but these are enumeration values. So you can see again, and this is why the reference is so helpful. Here for the MA method, we can provide any of these enum MI method values. So if I click here, you can see we can provide simple moving average, exponential, SMMA, and LWMA. These are all of the options, and we can just choose one of them. And same goes for the price close or the applied price. We can choose any of these values, and these are the exact same values that we can choose here. So this is why we can choose these enumerations, and it makes it easier for us to pick the correct value. Also, we could say maybe we want to use this expert advisor also in different charts and not only the euro US dollar. As I said before, the chart indicator is automatically applied to the chart symbol always. And this can also be done in the programming. Instead of hard coding euro US dollar here, we can write underscore symbol, because if we have a look at the reference again, click F1, the underscore symbol variable, it always contains the symbol name of the current chart. So if we run this in euro US dollar, for example, underscore symbol will be replaced with euro US dollar. If we run it in USD Japanese yen, it would be USD Japanese yen. Same goes pretty much for the time frame. Like here, this is our the time frame. So you can see we can use any of these enumeration time frames pretty much. So we could say period current. This would automatically choose the current chart time frame, but here I usually do not really recommend this, because if you run the expert advisor in a chart and then you would switch to the time frame, it would automatically switch the time frame also for this moving average. So here what I like to do is I like to choose the time frame directly, for example period M15. Or what is even better, instead of doing it like this, we can add some input variables for this. And input variables are always defined or usually found at the top of a program. And you can write input. This tells the MetaTrader that it is an input variable. And then you choose the type of this variable. And if we see here, this period, the chart time frame, it has the type enum timeframes. So we write enum timeframes. And then we need to provide a name for this variable. We can choose, for example, MA1 time frame. And here now we can define M15, for example. So if we compile this, now we can see this is automatically color coded because it is a input variable. What does it mean? It means that if we go to our MetaTrader and if we search for our expert advisor now in this expert advisors folder in the navigator, we should find it under mean reversion YouTube. That's the name that I chose. And if I drag and drop it on my chart, I can see the inputs here. So you can see the variable, it's the name that I chose, and we can see the values. The default value is M15, but I could choose any other value also. And this is the power of input variables. So basically the user of this program is able to change how the moving average should look like. This can also be super helpful if you want to use the same expert advisor and multiple symbols, because then you can use different settings for different symbols. Now we just created this variable here, but it actually is not really used. So what we want to do is we want to use the name for this variable and place it here where we previously hard-coded the time frame. So now the handle moving average 1 will always be created using this input variable. And the cool thing is we can not only do it for the time frame, but we can also do it, for example, with integer variables like the periods. Period I think is 360. And now instead of having the hard-coded 360, we can say MA1 period. Now the user is able to change this. We could also do this for the that moving average type or the applied calculation price, but in this tutorial I don't want to do this. You can easily do this on your own. Just create 2 more input variables for these 2 values. Then, since we do have another moving average also, we can just copy what we did before. Let's say MA2 time frame is period D1. As I said, we want to have like a higher time frame as a filter period here. And then input int MA2 period should be, for example, 20. And now the cool thing is we can just copy this line pretty much. We just say, now we want to get the handle for the moving average 2. And then we say IMA again. We just take the other input variables here now, but the rest can stay pretty much the same. That's how easy it is to tell our program what specific indicators we work with. And at this point you might be still wondering, what even is this handle? You will learn more about this in a second when we use this handle in the onTick function. But in short, a handle is actually nothing else but the description of one specific indicator. So this handle can be used to tell the computer exactly what specific indicator we want to work with. And this is also why here we had to provide all of the properties for this indicator. So you can see, since we use different values here, there will be different indicators associated with these 2 handles stored in the variables. Now also, of course, we can do this for the ATR. There we also have the functions like IATR. Now you can see again, we need to provide the symbol and the time frame. Here we could again, of course, just say we want to create some more inputs for this to give the user the maximum flexibility. Or actually, let's just use ATR time frame, because we kind of have the same time frame for both ATRs. Period M15, for example, and then let's create the ATR period or ATR1 period already, which could be 10, for example, and ATR2 period, which could be 20, for example. Now we just have to provide the rest of these requested parameters for the IATR function. If you're wondering what parameters are requested exactly, make sure to always just press F1 on your keyboard, and here you can either search for any function pretty much in the MT5 framework, or you jump to the correct entry directly if your cursor is inside of the like function name or word or like whatever the name of this function is. So you can see we only have 3 parameters, which kind of makes sense because the ATR doesn't have as many parameters as the moving average. We basically just find the period. So this is why we here just provide the ATR time frame and the ATR period. Then we do the same thing, of course, for ATR2. Here we say again symbol ATR time frame because it's the same time frame, and ATR2 period because it's a different period. So now the last of these indicators that we want to use is the RSI. So here we want to say RSI, and then let's have a look at the parameters here. We need to provide the symbol, of course. Then we will need to provide the RSI time frame. We will need the RSI period, and also the RSI applied price. But let's maybe just hard code it with the price close. And I think price close is the default value, right? Yes. So okay, so now let's create the necessary two input variables. Let's say input enum timeframes, RSI time frame. We go with period M15, I think, and then we say RSI period should be, did I use 20 here? I think so. But it doesn't really matter, like you can change it later on, or the user actually can change it because these are input variables. So once we did this, we can compile. And so far our program, which is which we can activate already, like if you go to your MetaTrader, click mean reversion, you can see here like we do have all of these inputs that we defined. And if I click on OK, it will actually run the program in this chart. You can see it's now attached to the chart in the upper right corner, but it does absolutely nothing. I mean, it's not doing nothing. It is actually creating these handles, but these handles are never used. So the program is not like opening trades or doing anything. It's just creating the handles, but they're useless because we don't use them. So this is what we need to change next. So in our onTick function, and this is the cool part, since we did all of this preparation here, we can now easily go ahead and receive the values for the indicators. So for example, let us say we want to get the values for the first moving average. So in this case, we want to create a double array, and this could be confusing, but actually it's not. Like double values are similar to integer values. They are numbers, but they can have a decimal point. So all of these values are double values. We usually use double values if we want to work with like prices, for example, because prices like the current price for euro or dollar, for example, it has a decimal point, of course. So this is why we use double. And then what this array means is, it means that we are not only storing one value in this variable, but instead we can store multiple values. For example, we could store all of these values in this double array. It would look like this, for example. Like if I do it like this, we can store all of these values in there's a semicolon missing. Yeah, sorry. We can store all of these values in the double array. And if I take away these squared brackets, it's not working anymore because we have too many initializers. But if we say it like this, if we define the variable like this, or declare with the squared brackets, then it's okay to put multiple values inside of this array, which means that now we could say at index 0, for example, we find 23.323. At index 3, we would find yeah, it's this actually, because counting starts at 0, and yeah, this is the name is MA1, but this is pretty much how you can work with arrays. So here, as I said, we want to have this array, and now we don't want to put the values inside of this array ourselves, but instead we want to use the copy buffer function. The copy buffer function, it requests a indicator handle as the first parameter, which is great because we have a bunch of these indicator handles. Let's choose the handle MA1. Then the buffer number. Here we can use either 0 or main line, which is pretty much the same, because we are getting the value from our moving average and it only has one line, so it's the main line. Then we have the starting position, which could be 1, a count, which could be 1 or 2. Do we need 2 values? Like, we just want to check if we are above or below this moving average. So basically, I think we just need 1 value, and we want to store the values in the moving average 1 array. So if we compile this, and let's, for example, just print this or comment this in the chart. We now comment the value inside of this MA1 array at index 0. So the first value inside of this array. And in your chart in the upper left corner, you should now find the exact moving average value for the last bar. So you can see here, if we compare this, it should be the same value. It's rounded, of course, in the chart comment here. Oh no, actually in the data window. But you can see it is in fact the same value. And this is because, yeah, I mean, this holds the exact description of the moving average. Then we get the main line. We get all of the candles from the starting position 1, and then we get only one candle. So this means starting position 1 is here, like the last bar, and we only get this one bar. We could theoretically say we want to have 5 bars. Then we would go here back, like for example 5 bars, and we would get all of these, the values for all of these 5 bars, and store them in the array. This is why the copy buffer function requests an array and not just a single variable, because we could theoretically store multiple values here. But now, since we figured out how this works, we can do the same thing pretty much for our other variables, right? So let's do it for the moving average 2. Here we do exactly the same things pretty much, but just we store the values in the MA2 array and we use a different handle. Then we want to have the ATR at the ATR1 pretty much, which could be, or which will be taken from the handle ATR1. This is also the main line because we only have one line. Then 1 1, and we store it in ATR1. Then ATR2, copy buffer, handle ATR2, main line 1 1 ATR2. Don't mess up the variable names. And then we do have the RSI, copy buffer, handle RSI, main line we only have one line, and here we actually need 2 values, and we store it in the RSI array. So once we compile this, you can see like it's not really doing anything, but now with every single tick, since we based all of this in the body of the onTick function, with every single tick we are now getting all of the indicator values. So once we did this, we can now use these values to find the entry signals. And finding the entry signals is actually very easy. But before we do this, we kind of want to make sure that we only execute this code once at the beginning of a new bar, because we are calculating based on the indicator values for the last bar anyways. So a simple way to do so is, for example, check if there is a new bar in the chart. We could, for example, say we want to get the bars for a specific symbol and time frame. Here we can use, for example, the MA1 time frame, and we use the ibars function. In the reference, we can see it will create return a integer value, and it just needs these 2 parameters. It will just give the amount of bars in a chart. Then also we can use a global variable. Here, for example, we can say int bars total, and the purpose of global variables here is that they are not, or they are declared at the beginning when you start the program, and then they will be kept in the memory of your computer all of the time, and they are not like deleted or terminated until the program is removed from the chart. This is why we also created global variables for the handles. Another benefit is that global variables can be used in any function. It's different for local variables because they will be deleted from the memory of your PC automatically if the function in which they are created terminates. This is a useful mechanism to free up memory space, of course, and not have it blocked forever if you have variables that you don't need anymore. But for a total bars variable, it makes sense to use a global variable because we don't want the value to be resetted every time the onTick function terminates, because we do use this total bars variable or bars total variable to check if it holds a different value than this bars variable, because in this case we want to update the bars total variable with the value inside of the bars variable. And this means that even though the onTick function is executed with every single tick, as the name says, we only enter the body of this if statement at the beginning of a new bar, because only then the bars variable holds a different value than the total bars total variable. So now we want to take all of this and move it to the right side. You can highlight everything like this and then use the tabulator button on your keyboard. And then also down here we want to make sure that we close the body of this if statement here. So you can see this is the opening bracket, this is the closing bracket. What does this mean? It means that if we check this condition here, and if this condition is true, then we will do everything inside of the body of this if statement. But if we check this condition and if it is false, then we simply skip the body of this if statement. So this means, or this makes sure that we only execute this once per bar. So now let's find our entry signals. First of all, and maybe one of the most important checks that we want to do is we want to check, as I explained in the beginning, how far the current price is away from this moving average. So this should be a input variable, I think. So let's say input double min MA like deviation. It's the correct word, right? Min MA difference or gap, or I don't know. Let's say gap. I don't know. So this could be, for example, 0.6%. So how do we use this now? We can say we also want to get, for example, the close price of the last bar. So we can say close is I close, because we have a predefined function for this. And here we want to use the MA1 time frame also and shift to the last bar. So this will give us the close price of the last bar. And now we can easily say if, another if statement, close is smaller than MA1 at index 0. Don't forget this, because we are dealing with an array here. So if we just say it like this, it will cause an error. If we are closer than MA1 minus MA1 0 multiplied with min MA gap divided by 100, and if I did not mess this up, this should be the correct formula for this. Then we want to look for buy trades, and let's say, for example, it happened, so we can quickly test this for buy. And then also we can, of course, copy this block and say if the close is above MA1 at index 0 plus MA1 at index 0 multiplied with the min MA gap, then we can say we want to look for sell trades. It happened for sell. So now if we compile this, you should not see any errors at this point. And if we compile this, we can go back to our MetaTrader, and this program is actually ready for testing now. So you can go to a strategy tester, click Ctrl R on your keyboard, or just click on View Strategy Tester. This will open the strategy tester. If I click on Visualize now, we can choose the program that we want to test. In this case, it's the mean reversion program, of course. You can choose whatever symbol we want to test. Let's go with US dollar. We can choose everything else like time frame, period. I will just test from 2024 in the M15 chart. And you can see here we also have the inputs here. But yeah, let's for now keep the default settings. And if I click start now, you can see we will see a separate window. This is the visual mode of the strategy tester. And here we can see if I fast forward, we should theoretically see in the journal if there's a signal for buy. So the last signal was at 8:45, but let's maybe fast forward and let's wait for the next signal. Oh, there was another signal. Too quickly here. Do we see another signal here? It doesn't give us the signal yet. I think we need to go down a little bit more. Here we see a signal. Yes, 6. So it means that we should be at least 0.6% below the moving average. I don't know, I don't want to do like the exact calculation, but I mean it should be working, and we can also see this works also for sell. So it means so far we are on track, I would say, and this is just our first condition. We do have more conditions. As I said, we want to check for buy and sell trades if the ATR 1 is currently below the ATR 2. So since we're doing this for both buy and sell, we can wrap these two conditions in another if statement. So we can say ATR 0 should be smaller than ATR 1, right? Oh, sorry, not like this. ATR 1 at index 0 should be smaller than ATR 2 at index 0. And then, only then, we check if we do see a signal based on the moving average 1. Also, let's get rid of this comment. Also, we want to check here if close is greater than MA2, because this is our trend filter, right? And also we want to check if RSI, we only have one RSI, if RSI 0 is greater than, if RSI 1 is greater than RSI 0. Please see that here we are changing the index, because here previously we only used 0 because we only had one value in this array, but here we now use 1 also because we have two values in this RSI array. Also, we can do the same checks here for sell trades. We're going to check if close is smaller than MA2, and we want to check if RSI 1 smaller than RSI 0. These are all of the checks that we want to do, and now we can actually open the positions already. To open positions in MetaTrader 5 programming, the easiest thing you can do is include the trade/trade.mqh file. This file gives us access to the ctrade class. I will not cover this in detail, but just know that now we can create object variables of type ctrade, which we can use to open positions. If you want to have more information on this, make sure to check out my full programming course. It's definitely linked in the description of this video. So here we can now say we want to use this trade object, and we can say we want to buy, and we can say we want to buy one lot, for example, in the current chart symbol, and yeah, at the current price. So let's go like this. And here we can say trade sell one lot at the current chart symbol. This is just to test if what I did so far is right in some way, or if it's completely wrong. So let's see if we can see trades here. And we do see trades. We see a bunch of trades actually, and this is a problem that we will handle later on. But first of all, let's check for some of these trades if this is actually looking fine. So for example, for this trade here, which was opened here, we want to check if this ATR value here at this bar for, I'm looking at the data window now, ATR 10 for this bar should be smaller than ATR 2, and it is. It's a very small difference, but it is correct. Then also we do see the RSI here should be higher than the RSI in the previous bar, and it's also correct. Then we do see we are below the moving average. It should be at least 0.6%. Yeah, it's definitely. And if we switch to the to a different time frame, the daily time frame, we can see we were above this filter moving average. So all of our conditions are met, and we do open buy positions. Then we see that we open actually more buy positions, and this is because right now the program does not check if there is a open buy position already. But we will do this in a second when we also implement the code for closing the position at the moving average. So for the position closing and also to count the open trades, we want to go to the beginning of our onTick function and create a little loop. A loop is used in programming if you have a task that you want to execute multiple times. And in MetaTrader 5 programming, we often use loops. It's a very typical thing to use loops for, to go through all of the open trades. Like for example, if you have a bunch of open trades like we do see here, you can see we have 10, 20 trades, and we can loop through all of these trades and check every single trade. And the easiest way to do so is using a loop. So how do we do this? We use a for loop. So we write for, which is the keyword for this for loop. And then we have a initialization. We write integer I is equal to 0. And as long as I is smaller than, or let's do different. Let's say I is equal to positions total minus 1. And as long as I is greater or equal to 0, then we want to do something. And after we did something, we want to subtract 1 from I. This is confusing, I know, but let me explain again. Like, this is just the keyword, so the computer knows there's a for loop coming. Then we do have 3 blocks. 1 block, 2 block, 3 blocks divided by semicolons. We write integer I is equal to positions total minus 1, which will just say that we create a new integer variable named I. This integer variable only lives inside of this for loop. So once the for loop is processed, this variable will be deleted from the memory of your PC. The default value, or the first value, the initial value for this I variable is positions total minus 1. So the MetaTrader will just count all of the open positions at this point. So here we have like, let's say we have 10 positions. So the first value in this I variable will be 10 minus 1, which is 9. Then we check if 9 is greater or equal to 0, because this is the main condition of the for loop. And if this is true, then we will process the body. So everything that is written inside of the body of the for loop, we'll process it once we realize the condition is true. And after processing the body, we will execute this last part of the for loop, like, let's say, parameter list, and which means that we decrease I by 1. So after every iteration or execution of the loop, of the body of the loop, we decrease I by 1. This is very, very important, because this makes sure that when we check the condition the next time, it will be 8. So then we see 8 is still greater or equal to 0. So we execute the body again. But at some point, I will be minus 1. And then the condition is no longer true. And that's when we exit the for loop. So you always have to make sure that your loop is designed in a way that gives the computer the chance to exit the loop at some point. If, for example, we do not add this here, it would create an infinite loop, which will make our computer like process the same task every time. It will like create a lot of it will take away a lot of resources from our PC, and eventually the program, the expert advisor, will probably crash. So here inside of the body, we now want to get the position ticket, and here we can use the position get ticket function. And as you can see here, the only requested parameter is the position index, and this is our I. And this is why we designed this loop the way we designed it, because all of the open positions automatically get an index in the MetaTrader 5. So the first position has index 0, second one has 1, that's 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, blah, blah, blah. And this is why we initialize our I with positions total minus 1, because it just makes sense, because this way we can get all of the position tickets by using the position get ticket function and providing the index. Now, since we have the position ticket, we can now select the position. Here we can do it like the old-fashioned way, but here I will show you, or the raw way, but here I want to show you like the easier and quicker way. Since we use the trade.mqh file here, we also have access to the C position info class. So we can create this object. And again, if you want to learn more about this, like little bit more advanced stuff, check out the programming course linked in the description of this video. But what we want to do here is we want to say position select by, actually we could say select by index. As I see it, we could also say select by ticket. Okay, let's select by index right away. Let's say select by index, and then we provide the index, which is I here. If this works, then we have a position selected, which means that now in our, like we can say if position type is equal to position type buy, make sure to select a position before you do this, because otherwise it will not work. So we check if the position that we currently selected is a buy position, and in this case we want to increase a counter. Let's say counter buy is equal to 0 and counter sell is equal to 0. So here we want to say counter buy plus plus, or plus equals 1, or counter buy is equal to counter buy plus 1. All of these things do the same. Pretty much they increase the value by 1, but this is the shortest form of writing this. And then we can do the same thing like else if, which means that if this condition is not true, we want to check this condition, and here we want to check else if position type equal to position type sell. Here we want to say counter sell plus plus. So before we enter or add the code for the position closing, let's use these counters here, because before we open a buy position, we want to make sure that counter buy is smaller than 1, which means that we do not have a buy position currently. So if we compile this again, and let me restart the test real quick. And remember, in the last test we saw a bunch of buy positions actually at the first signal, but here now we see the same program running in the same chart, but since we made this little adjustment and we're counting the buy positions now, we only find this one buy position, which is exactly what we want actually. So yeah, let me close this real quick, and now what we can do here is we can say also we want to close the positions, right? If we are at the moving average line. So we can say here if position profit is greater than 0, because we only want to close in profit here in this case, if the current price, yeah, we need the current price, which we think I think we can get this with price current, right? It's greater than MA1 at index 0. In this case we want to close the position, and for this we can use our trade object and we can say position close. We need to provide a position ticket, which we can get by using position.ticket, and that's basically it. Also we want to do the same for the sell positions, of course. So here we check if the position profit is greater than 0, if the price is below the MA1, and then we close the position. So if we compile, we get an error. This error is because this MA1 variable or identifier is not declared, it's not known here at this point, and it's because the declaration of this happens later down here. This is why we want to move this and cut it from here and move it up here. So this makes sure that we always calculate the moving average before we enter the loop. We could do it like this, but we could also leave it where it was before, down here. This will be a little bit more efficient, because then we don't have to calculate this with every tick. But if we want to do this, then we have to make this a global variable, which is fine, and we can do this. Just take the MA1 from here and paste it up here, so it is a global variable now. And now we can use it everywhere in our code, and the error is gone. So if we run this again, let's see how this looks like now. So here we can now see that the position is open, and as soon as we jump above the moving average and we are in profit, the position is closed. So if I fast forward, so we should see more signals. I mean, if there are signals, it's kind of restrictive with all of these conditions, but here you can see another signal, and this was a good win actually. And we don't see too many trades with how the expert advisor is built right now, but this is theoretically how it works. Also, this is kind of risky right now because we don't use a stop loss. So let's make sure we also use the stop loss, and while we do this, we can also use the TP. Let's create a bunch of inputs here, maybe also for the lots. We can say lots should be a input, we can say TP% should be a input, and we can say SL% should be a input. So once we created these inputs, we can now, before we open the positions down here, we can make some calculations for these values. Let's say before we open a buy position, we want to calculate the TP. TP should be 0, or if TP% is greater than 0, then we want to calculate the TP, and here we can say TP should be equal to actually we kind of want to have the current ask price for this symbol info double symbol ask plus, oh wait, let's do it a little bit different. Let's calculate the ask price here and store it in a variable, and let's also do this for the bid price, because we will need this in a second for sell positions. Symbol bid. So here we can now say the TP for buy positions should be ask plus ask multiplied with TP% divided by 100. Then we also want to calculate the stop loss if SL is equal to 0. If SL% is greater than 0, then we want to say SL is equal to ask minus ask multiplied with SL% divided by 100. Now we have these values. Now we can say, like for a buy function here, we want to provide the lots from the inputs. We want to still use the current chart time frame, but we want to use the ask price to open the position, and then we provide SL and TP. This should place the SL and TP now for our buy positions, and if we copy this and adjust the block slightly for sell positions, then it also works for sell positions. So let me copy this and paste it here, and now we can see that we only have to adjust these calculations here, and then it should also work for sell positions. And here of course we use the sell function and open at the bid price. So if we compile this and run the code one more time, then we should see that everything is as it was before, but we also have TP and SL in place. So we make sure that our losses are not unlimited if we do not see this mean reversion right away. So I could fast forward this. So we also have an example for a sell trade, for example. I don't know, like I was a little bit too quick, but if we go to the history, we can see there's TP and SL also for sell trades, so exactly what we want. So guys, after creating this expert advisor now, we're gonna do some long-term backtests in 2 or 3 symbols, and you can see here I changed the MA2 periods to 15 because it increased like the test quite a bit with Euro-US dollar, which is the first test that I want to show you. And also you can use this expert advisor now if you copied everything to do some tests and optimizations on your own PC, and maybe you find settings that you want to use in your actual account. So here you can see the settings again. I'm using Euro-US dollar with my custom data, like Dukas copy data, which is like the best known quality like data source for MetaTrader 5, and we use the mean reversion program, testing from 2015 to 2025. And let's give it a go. I'm testing without the visual mode, of course, because we know how the program works. Here we just want to have a look at the graph. So here you can see the final backtesting result is looking really solid. I mean, not like every year is like super profitable, but on average it is profitable. And this is a strategy that you could use with different symbols, a lot of different currencies. So you build it quite like a nice portfolio, and even if one symbol doesn't work out for a year, maybe others work out. And so yeah, that's the end of this little programming tutorial. I hope you liked it. I hope you were able to follow along. If not, just go back in the video and make sure you copy everything line by line exactly how I did it in this video, and then you will have the exact same program, and then you can start doing your own tests, optimizations, or even use it in your account. Yeah, enjoy the process, and let me know in the comments if you have any questions about this. And if you don't have any questions, I'm glad that you followed along and still watch at this point, and I will see you in the next video. Have a great time and good trades. Bye bye.